religion and spirituality on mental well-being. So what are some of the correlation that we find between spirituality and well-being, and relationship between those two, and the involvement of mental health? So there are so many different factors that are interacting with each other that can cause this issue. So according to the research in the field of existential well-being, spirituality is linked to positive psychological and mental well-being. According to the research that's done by King and Carson in 2012, concluded that religious involvement is correlated to these factors. It's increased the life satisfaction and well-being. And if you remember the topic that I talked about, the purpose of life, and to be able to discover the meaningful activities and have that brings life satisfaction. So religion and spirituality have that connection. It brings more satisfaction in life when we have a purpose, when we can contribute to the society in a positive manner, and it uplifts us. It also contributes to our healthy self-esteem. So all those things are connected to our well-being. The other thing that it involves, the religious involvement is correlated with, is reducing the anxiety level. And as I talked about earlier, some of the coping mechanism, which is meditation, prayers, and all those kind of things that you can incorporate in your life, can reduce the anxiety level, reduce suicide rate. People who find purpose in life would have a more meaningful life experiences with other people as they're interacting, and at the same time it reduces suicide rate because there's no lack of purpose, and they would have a more direction to their life. They would not be completely hopeless. And so there are so many other factors that need to be discussed in this particular topic about the suicide rate. But of course, it lowers the suicide rate. It depends on your involvement and your spiritual and psychological health, how it is. And that's why it's important to focus on psychological spiritual well-being, because it's also correlated to lowering the suicide rate. Resilience to overcome depression. This is interesting because in a lot of the studies that are done in positive psychology, they looked at resilience to overcome depression. So resilience is helpful because people who have been going through the psychological research process that's done in positive psychology have seen that people who are more religious, people who are more adjusted and have a positive well-being, are able to show more resilience towards problems, and they are able to handle it better, and they are able to overcome depression in a way that would be very helpful. And so resilience is one of the factor, and people who are religious and have those incorporate those kind of practices can also overcome some of the life difficult issues and depression, and shows more resilience in their life. Low rate of drug and alcohol use. A lot of times the religious studies and society within the religious community prohibited the use of drug and alcohol. Within Islam, it's completely something which is not tolerated. So there's zero tolerance for drugs and alcohol because it affects your mind. And so you can see the correlation that it kind of like lowers the rate of drugs and alcohol use within the Muslim community because they do not want it to be in a state where you kind of lose your state of mind, or you lose your consciousness or awareness. So anything that damages your mental well-being is not accepted, whether it's drug, alcohol, or abuse of drug in any way. Greater marital happiness. People who are religious also enjoys greater marital happiness. Now this is not of course true for everyone across the world. There are many studies that have been done, but these are some of the factors that they have found are contributing to these kind of they are involved in this kind of happiness. Greater happiness is kind of related to their psychological well-being and all that.